This is a 2026 Subaru Outback, the 7th generation station wagon-y crossover SUV that is boxier and taller than ever before and nicer inside as well. And regular viewers of my channel will be able to tell immediately that I am not on my usual route. My usual route is paved. I am a guest of Subaru, hence the badge, outside of Sedona, Arizona, and I'm not alone. In the passenger seat is a good friend of mine and fellow freelance journalist, Perry Stern. Hi, Perry.
Hello.
And he got to drive the Outback already, so we're gonna ask him of his thoughts as well. He got to drive it on pavement. My sole experience with this car so far has been this road right here. And in many ways, this road is what Subaru builds the Outback for, so that people can get a little bit adventurous, get a little bit away from civilization, get closer to nature, etc., etc. But Subaru says this is the most refined Outback they've ever built. Is it? Let's find out. I review all kinds of cars and I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. There are 6 trims of Outback starting in 2026. There's no base trim. It starts at the premium. From there, you go to the limited and then the touring. Then you get a new engine and you go limited XT, touring XT, and then finally the wilderness. As a result, the base price of the base trim has gone up a bit, and this mid-level limited XT with the turbocharged 2.4 liter engine does go up in price significantly, but you can get more expensive than this. The wilderness is the most expensive Outback you can get, but it's also not out quite yet. With that, now is a good time to pull over and show you around and inside this new Subaru Outback. Looking at the front of the car, you can see that Subaru went in a very different direction in terms of styling. It is much more squared off, much more vertical, 90-degree bends, and much more SUV looking as opposed to station wagon looking in its design. Also, quite clearly, the headlights are quite different. They're separated into 3 pieces. You have the DRL right here, you have the main beams down low, and then you have a fog light right here at the bottom. You also have a lot of interesting patterns in the grille right here, and it's a much more squared off piece right here. Then a bit of body color till you get to the lower grille down here, and a lot of patterns and 3-dimensional shapes baked into that. So there's a lot going on here. The Subaru logo is very large, front and center right here. No surprise there. Looking at the Outback in profile, it still has station wagon dimensions a bit, but it is much more SUV-like, as you can see. One thing to show you right away is we do have the ladder type roof rail right here. This is worth 800 pounds of load statically, 220 pounds dynamically, so that can carry a lot. That's very helpful. We also have tons of black cladding at the base of the car and the base of the fenders, and you know, that can be helpful for off-roading duties to not worry about it getting scratched up. It is basically the same size as before. I'll go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen right now for you to see, except for one. It is taller. It's about 2 inches taller than before, maybe 1.5 inches, and that helps with interior space and cargo room. Looking at the car from the rear, again, drastically different from before. You've got this big Outlook logo right here, but also you've got a much more vertically stacked rear windshield right here, and helps give you more than 2 additional cubic feet of cargo space. Also, this panel right here, that's removable if you want to put a towing hitch on your Outback. And there it is. We get a healthy amount of cargo space right here. It's really handy, but we get this super clever tonneau cover right here. Unfortunately, I don't have time to show you, but these are all the different ways you can arrange it, and it's a really helpful thing. Also, Subaru says that this is machine washable, and obviously it tucks away nice and tightly as well. And I did take a couple pictures. Here it is as a hammock. Here it is as a tonneau cover. And if you need more than the amount of cargo room that it provides with the seats up, It's very easy to fold the seats down, and you get a lot more cargo room. There's the number on the screen. This being the Touring, we get all the bells and whistles, and that includes heated rear seats and USB Type-C and a charge ports right there. But in fact, that comes on a few different trims. More fundamentally though, I have several inches of knee room. I have nice high seat bottoms for good thigh support, and despite all that, I also have plenty of headroom. Very short on time, so I have to be quick here. We do have the usual controls on the door right here. 2-position seat memory right there. This is a power adjusting seat, as you can see right here, and it is a Nappa leather on the seat, which is lovely. Also, this is a nice touch. We have a big bottle holder right here, but check that out. That's carpeted. That really helps mitigate the noise and the clanking around you get from bottles and other things in there. We do have a couple of controls to the left of the steering wheel, and we have manually adjusting tilt and telescope right there. The steering wheel itself is a nice thick rim and a nice small diameter, and it includes several cruise control options on the right, media control options on the left. We also have paddle shifters, upshift on the right, downshift on the left. This is also a heated steering wheel, which is nice. And behind that, standard equipment. That is a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster and a 12.1-inch center display. Push button starts right here. And there is the instrument cluster lit up and a nice little animation for the center display. There is the screen for the display. It does also include wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. We also get heated and ventilated front seats, a wireless smartphone charger, and another USB Type-C and USB Type-A charger right there. That's of course above our pretty traditional looking Prindle, and a few buttons beneath that which are largely self-explanatory, but we do have 360-degree views. When you put it in drive, you get this view. Put it in reverse, you get that view. It's lovely. We do have a couple of nice cup holders right here. These cup holders are farther forward than before. They used to be back here, so now they're easier to reach here. And then we do have the slot in between. That is designed to be able to hold mugs if you want mugs in your cup holders. And beneath that, electric park brake and more space down here with a traditional 12-volt charge port right there. Lower center console is reasonably big and deep. Nice. We also have a rear view mirror that doubles as a screen for a camera back there, and up above that we do have a glasses holder and, yes, a moonroof as well. So yeah, this is a nicely equipped, lovely Subaru Outback, but there's more to show you on the road and off of it, so let's get back to the drive. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. There are two engines to choose from, and the Limited XT has the more powerful of the two. The base engine is a 2.5-liter horizontally opposed or flat 4-cylinder. Subaru likes to call it a boxer engine. It is basically the same engine that's in the new for 2025 Subaru Forester, and it makes 180 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. But if you go with the Limited or Touring XT or the Wilderness, you get a turbocharged 2.4-liter horizontally opposed 4-cylinder. It makes 260 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. This Limited XT has the more powerful engine, and I cannot tell right now because this is a very curvy, gravelly road that we're on right now, narrow as well. So bursts of power have been short and sweet. I can give you one right now. Yeah, it's plenty for where we are right now. We're also more than a mile above sea level, so that's not going to help in terms of power outputs. Barry, you got to drive this engine on the road. How did you feel about power and smoothness?
Actually, I thought it had plenty of power. I didn't have any problem getting up to speed. In fact, I kept finding that the car seems to want to go faster than you realize. Part of that is because it's really quiet. And even on this gravel road here, the cabin stays surprisingly silent.
It's much better wind noise and road noise for sure in here. Yeah, the engine itself from the passenger seat felt adequate for power at the very least.
Most definitely, most definitely. It'll be interesting to try the non-turbo engine.
Yes. This being a Subaru event with specific roads that we're going on, I didn't get a chance to drive this turbocharged engine on the pavement to get an acceleration test, but from the passenger seat, it felt good, and it does get respectable fuel economy. I'll go ahead and put that up on the screen for you to check out. There's also the naturally aspirated engine. I got some time in that one as well. Let me show you what that powertrain is like. As promised, here I am in a different car, and look at this. I get to be on a road in this car. So now, Perry and I are in a Touring, the top trim, and powertrain-wise, you know, it's about what you'd expect. Not a ton. We're going down a pretty steep hill right now, and it accelerates fine down that hill. But honestly, the engine's fine. In normal everyday driving, you're not wanting for power. It's just not exciting. Perry, you got to drive with this engine first. What did you think of it?
It's noticeably less power. It also gets a little buzzy when you really push it. And with the CVT, it'll keep the revs up pretty high. And so it can be a little noisy. But 90% of the driving, you don't really notice that you're lacking any power. And it's mainly in the acceleration. Once you're at speed, you're fine.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah, and I think that is another good point. We have a continuously variable transmission, and that's whether you get the naturally aspirated or the turbocharged engine. It is a CVT. We do have paddle shifters, and Subaru does have 8 different ratios to mimic an 8-speed automatic. So if I use the ratios, it puts me in 4th gear. Now I'm in 3rd. Now I'm in 2nd, and the revs do climb appropriately as a result. So in some ways, it's a pretty responsive transmission, but in other ways, there's no actual gears. So, you know,
It's pretend.
it's pretend, but it pretends well. I think that what we're getting here is a little bit more of the realistic expectations of the quietness and the composure of the Outback on roads. And this still is the case, even though the Touring model has 19-inch wheels instead of 18-inch wheels. It still feels plenty compliant to me. Perry, you agree?
Absolutely. The ride was still good. We did a little bit off-road, a little bit of gravel in this particular car, and saw no issues. I mean, the ride and handling, I think, are very similar to the other car that we drove.
And as luck would have it, we're going around a couple of curves. So this gives us a good chance to experiment the chassis with a little bit. Experiment with the chassis, excuse me. And, you know, we get understeer, but it's not bad understeer. The chassis balance is actually pretty good. And even as corners tighten up, yeah, the steering response is pretty good, and the car actually feels competent. We're on 19-inch all-season rubber, and we don't have tons of grip here, but, you know, the composure is actually pretty good. The front to rear chassis balance is actually a little bit better than I expected. So considering that, you know, we had a couple of corners to play with there, and it wasn't bad. Perry, you got to drive it through quite a few corners. What did you think of it?
I thought it handled great. I mean, it was perfectly stable and comfortable. Kept up with a Porsche Carrera S.
That's right.
That was
a
fun.
Turbo S.
Turbo S, yeah. Exactly. Could have had some driving issues there, but the car handles the corners well, especially considering it's a tall crossover.
Yeah.
And so
this is where 8.7 inches of ground clearance is not your friend, and yet it's still perfectly competent.
It's definitely a good car to drive on a day-to-day basis.
And since I'm in the testing mode, let's do a quick acceleration test. Coming to a complete stop. Floor of the accelerator, about 2,500 RPM off the brake. Yeah. Come on. Come on. There it goes. All right, now we're going. All right. And being very CVT-esque, it got up to the engine peak around 6,000 RPM and just hung out there. And we accelerated along just fine. Perry?
It was not thrown back in my seat, but it's certainly adequate for most daily use.
To be fair,
it's not a sports car.
It's not a sports car, and it's a naturally aspirated engine. We're at like 4,000 feet above sea level, so it's not even making all of its 180 horsepower right now. So,
and this is not a small car.
given all those caveats, I'd say that's totally reasonable. But yeah, not the most thrilling acceleration test I've ever had. All right, here's our chance to get a little bit of time on the highway. This isn't a full-on interstate, but it is a divided highway, and it gives us a chance to get to pretty much interstate speeds. I do have the cruise control set to 74 miles an hour, and I do have all the assistance systems on, and I can feel it turning for me right now, so I'll take my hands off the wheel, and sure enough, it's tracking the curve pretty well. The 7th generation Outback does have eyesight, which is what Subaru calls its driving aids.
That was where we're supposed to turn. Oh, right there.
And just like that, I had to do a little maneuvering. That's the end of the interstate test. I'm glad we did it when we did, because there wasn't much room. And just like that, we're back onto unpaved roads. This is proving to be a much better behaved car, much more well-mannered car than I expected, and that definitely holds true at highway speeds as well. All right, let's dig into the chassis. And it's not the chassis so much, but actually the noise, vibration, and harshness, the cabin quietness. That is something that Subaru talked a lot about, and so far I absolutely concur that this Subaru is much quieter than it used to be. Perry, you feel the same way?
Absolutely. It's also much smoother. It really, we're on some pretty rough roads actually now we're onto pavement.
And look at that, the stars have aligned and we're on pavement. Well, now that we're on pavement for this brief moment, it's actually very gravelly pavement, if I'm honest. The refinement of the cabin, and that certainly is helping that the suspension has been retuned as well. It's a much calmer, quieter experience than I'm used to.
And that's the end of pavement.
And just like that, we're back to gravel. And this is
it's getting a little rougher.
This is rougher gravel, to be sure. The refinement of the chassis has really come through, and the quietness of the cabin is noticeably better than the outgoing Outback. And Perry, you would agree?
Absolutely, I would agree. It's much calmer to drive as well, and to add to that, the new seats are also really, really comfortable.
Yes, that was a big part. They did a lot of work to improve the seats, and that I think is just the theme of this Outback, is that it is a much more comfortable experience than it was, and more comfortable in the sense that it's quieter on the road, it's absorbing bumps better than it did before, and the engine's quieter and more refined feeling. So the whole overall experience is a much calmer experience than before. Subarus, historically, at least to me, had a real tinny feel. It just felt thin, and you felt kind of exposed to a lot of the noise that was in the outside world easily came through the cabin. And that is just not the case anymore. This Outback feels much more isolated from the outside world when you're inside here. And yet, clearly, we still have all the ground clearance that Outbacks have always had and all those things. We still have the capability, it's just in a much more refined package. That I really appreciate. So, what do I think of this 2026 Subaru Outback? Perry, let me ask you that first. What do you think of this thing?
I'm impressed. I have to admit, when I first saw it, I wasn't crazy about the new look. The more I see it, the more I like it. And the way it drives, it's so much more refined than the old one. And it's also very stable. I mean, I took it at decent speed on some gravel roads, and even going around corners, it corrected itself as it needed to. So basically made me look like a pretty good driver.
Yeah, I agree. The styling when I first saw it was a little bit underwhelming. I did appreciate that it started to look a little bit more like an SUV, not just technically be an SUV, but like look like a tall station wagon. It's really starting to look like a crossover to me. It looks more like the Forester does in that sense. The styling when you see it in person is definitely better than when I saw it in pictures. And the improvement in the drive is definitely something that's laudable. I appreciate that, to be sure. And here we are getting on narrower, bumpier gravel roads, ascending to higher elevations outside of Sedona, Arizona, and we're doing it pretty darn comfortably.
Yeah.
So considering the prowess, the off-road prowess that the Outback continues to offer in a much more refined package, I think there's a lot of good here. If you're an enthusiast of the outdoors, the Outback continues to deliver, but now it does it in a much more comfortable way. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you very much for watching.